Welcome to this explainer. Today, we are diving into a really fascinating, honestly kind of mind-bending paradox of human behavior. We're going to explore a completely counterintuitive idea, how our absolute greatest, most celebrated strengths can actually end up ruining our relationships. And on the flip side, how our most painful, seemingly wasted time is very often the exact vital preparation we need for our true purpose. It's a total paradigm shift, and I am so excited to unpack this with you.
Think about something massive, like the World Cup. When that camera pans across the roaring fans in the stadium, what do you see? Absolute, unfiltered joy, right? Not a single face is frowning. But what you don't see is the massive mountain of hidden worries, stress about money, business, family drama, that those exact same people are going to return to the second they leave the stands. We all carry these hidden daily anxieties right beneath the surface, especially when it comes to our closest relationships and our own sense of purpose.
To really understand how these hidden struggles play out, let's jump into Section 1, The Modern Dilemma, featuring a project manager and a teacher.
So, picture this couple in their 40s. They've been married for about 9 years. The husband, he's a big tech project manager. His entire career is built on his structuring ability. Breaking down massive, complex problems into neat little execution plans. Now, the wife is this incredibly warm, self-sacrificing elementary school teacher who just handles everything with boundless patience. But around year 7, she hit a wall. She was just totally fatigued. One evening, completely burned out, she told him she just needed some comfort. His response? You won't believe this. He literally pulled out his calendar to aggressively schedule and solve her emotional exhaustion like it was an overdue tech deliverable. She didn't want a timeline. She just wanted him to look at her and say, "Wow, you must be really tired."
Now, the crucial thing to realize here is that this wasn't done out of malice. The husband honestly thought he was doing his absolute best to help her. Their friction actually comes from a psychological concept proposed by Alex Linley called strength overuse. It basically means that the very things we are best at, our core defining human strengths, can actually become major destructive obstacles in our relationships when we use them excessively or just in the completely wrong context.
And this is just a perfect illustration of how our strengths can morph into massive liabilities. The husband's powerful problem-solving skills? Well, at home, they felt suffocating and controlling. He was treating his wife's completely normal, unstable emotions as a solvable project. But on the flip side, the wife's incredible patience had actually created this toxic silence where she felt she couldn't express her own struggles without getting a structured fix in return. They were both gripping their primary weapons, their defining strengths, way too tightly to protect themselves, and it was actively tearing their marriage apart.
This exact dynamic brings us right to Section 2, a historical parallel with Moses in the wilderness. Believe it or not, this modern psychological premise perfectly mirrors the ancient biblical story of Moses. So Moses grows up as a total elite in the Egyptian royal court. He's got the best education, the highest status, and a fierce burning passion for his oppressed people, the Israelites. But he suffered from severe strength overuse. He arrogantly assumed that his elite status and his intense passion could just solve everything on his own. So he takes matters into his own hands and murders an Egyptian. The result? Total unmitigated disaster. He becomes a terrified fugitive and has to flee into the wilderness.
Because of his overused strength, Moses lost absolutely everything. For 40 long years, he lived out in the harsh wilderness tending sheep. And get this, they didn't even belong to him. They belonged to his father-in-law, Jethro. Talk about a blow to the ego, right? Unlike Jacob, who at least earned his own flocks, Moses worked for 4 decades and had literally nothing to his name except a dry wooden staff to guide the sheep and beat back wild animals. He was just surviving, what must have felt like a completely wasted, meaningless chunk of his life.
Which brings us to a massive, life-changing pivot point. Section 3. What is in your hand? The burning bush.
So Moses receives this overwhelming command from God to go confront Pharaoh and free his people. Naturally, the guy is terrified. He feels like an absolute nobody. And then we get this incredible moment from Exodus 4:2. The Lord said to him, "What is that in your hand?" He said, "A staff." Now, think about this for a second. An omniscient God isn't asking this because he needs to gather information. It is a profound, almost jarring rhetorical device forcing Moses to look right at his own perceived inadequacy. Just look at the stark difference in perspective here. When Moses looked at himself, what did he see? He just saw an exiled, aging fugitive holding a shabby, dry stick. He felt entirely unqualified for the job. But the true perspective was vastly different.
That staff was actually a powerful symbol of the immense practical knowledge he had accumulated. It represented 40 years of learning how to survive the scorching heat, the freezing nights, finding hidden water. It was a masterclass in wilderness survival.
And here is the brilliant, ironic insight. The real challenge wasn't actually that momentary, flashy confrontation with Pharaoh to free the Israelites. No, the real challenge was what came after. It was leading an entire nation of people through 40 years of brutal, unforgiving wilderness. So that wasted time? It wasn't wasted at all. It was highly specific, absolutely perfect training for the exact terrain that lay ahead.
Let's pull this right back into the modern day with Section 4, Finding Purpose in Wasted Time.
The source for this whole analysis actually comes from a sermon by Reverend Sanghyun Lee, and he shares a deeply personal anecdote that perfectly mirrors Moses' exile. When Pastor Lee moved to the U.S. East Coast on a spousal visa in his 20s, he couldn't legally pursue his own career. So for 5 grueling years, he worked exhausting manual jobs in an unfamiliar neighborhood. He was getting yelled at and cursed at by angry customers like 10 times a day. And just like Moses, he felt entirely hopeless. He viewed those years as a miserable, thoroughly wasted time that he just desperately wanted to erase from his memory. But then, here is the beautiful revelation. Years later, standing at the pulpit as a pastor, it suddenly hit him. Those 5 miserable years of adversity, they actually planted a profound, unshakable empathy inside him. It fueled his ultimate calling to comfort and encourage other immigrants who were going through those exact same struggles. It proved that what we so often perceive as shameful, completely wasted time is actually holy preparation for our true purpose.
And that brings us to the final, critical step to resolve our conflicts and our regrets. Section 5. Throw down the staff, surrender, and transform.
Right after asking what's in Moses' hand, God gives this totally unexpected command in Exodus 4:3, throw it on the ground. Think about what that staff actually represents for us. It's our stubborn, overused strengths, like that tech manager's constant need to structure everything. And it's our painful, accumulated wounds, like Pastor Lee's years of hardship. As long as we grip those things tightly in our own hands, trying to control everything, they are just dry sticks that can actually hurt the people around us. We have to throw them down.
So how do we actually do this? Well, step 1. Acknowledge your hidden wounds and your overused strengths. You have to recognize that your go-to defense mechanisms might actually be causing harm. Step 2. Throw them on the ground in total surrender. Just stop relying entirely on your own power and your own structuring to fix everything. And step 3. Let them be transformed. By finally doing this, that dry stick you've been white-knuckling stops hurting you and your spouse, and it becomes a powerful tool for good, just like the humble shepherd's staff that eventually parted the Red Sea. As we wrap up this explainer, I really want to leave you with a final, provocative question to examine in your own life. What is in your hand right now? What stubborn strength are you overusing, or what painful, seemingly wasted past are you still holding on to? And what incredible, transformational purpose could it actually serve if you finally found the courage to throw it on the ground? Take a moment to reflect on that today. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you next time.